Hello, this is Black Kitten 069, aka Madam Natasha, coming to you again. And if you catch me on Kike, it's aka Goddess Lilith. So today I accidentally deleted the video. So hopefully that means that I may need to come to you with new content or new topics. I hope that's what that means. Anyway, so let's get into PolyShip You Don't Do. Before I get into that, I want to thank the vanilla community for embracing another lifestyle. Yay! You are becoming more and more aware of how things that there is more to the matrix than what meets the eye. However, poly isn't anything new, so you're not doing anything new. You have, if you look throughout centuries and you look throughout different cultures and you look throughout even in the Bible, like poly has always existed, or polyandry has always existed, or some kind of poly has existed. In matter of fact, I think there somewhere in Asia there is still practice, like probably like in the countries, like in the wilderness, they still practice like polyandry, which we will get into later. And King Solomon, like in the Bible, King Solomon had a lot of women and a lot of concubines, where they were considered concubines. We now call them mistresses or side chicks. I don't know what they were conquering, but I think that at that particular time of the Bible, God had finally perfected the male species, if you don't know what I mean. So, because he had to be a bad man to have all those women and all those concubines, I couldn't. I don't even want to know. It would be probably interesting. Like, what would that household look like? Um, so let's get into the what this is. As you know, with all lifestyles, regardless of what it is, you need to have rules. You need to have regulations. You have to have protocols. So basically, I'm telling you guys, some of you guys are doing it very, very wrong. You're not practicing poly, you're practicing horism, and then you're creating more and more um, discord or negativity onto the society, which we will get into furthermore. Now, the number one rule of all poly is consent. So do not, it should never ever be to a point where you're practicing poly and then the rest of the other people are unaware. Um, that is taking away their rights, that's taking away their decision to make to do something, and you should never do that. That's almost like mental rape when you do that, because things will happen and then they don't and then they find out that you're doing this lifestyle, and then they're like, and they thinking that you're one and only. So you don't want to do that to anyone. That's really terrible thing to do. So the different forms of poly is, of course, there's polymorphs, which is basically an open relationship. Normally, it's between two partners that are already together, or they came together and they already believe in this concept, and it could be two different ways. So, well, the first way is the one that everyone first when they hear it, they like polymorphs. I don't want to do that. You know, people who are still close-minded, and which is both partners having different lovers, and with that there could be additional rules, um, like one they may just say, hey, you can't spend the night out or anything like that, or that that could be one rule. Um, Everyone's dynamic is different. It's up to you what you want to do. But again, like I said, it's basics. Then there's another form of poly, which is number two, which is one partner is the one who's having different lovers, and then the other one is just dating platonically. Like, if I ever get into a relationship, I don't want to have different lovers. I want to have play dates that are platonic. So, I like to go out or whatever, stuff like that to keep me company while my lover's out doing whatever they're doing. And then, you know, and just be chilling. So that's two different things of polymorous. I'm jumping ahead of myself. Polymorphs. Now then, of course, then there's polyandry. We've seen this on us TV with sister wives. The Jesus of Latter-day Saints has. They also have Mormons, Amish. We've seen this in certain different religious things. Even Islam practice polyandry. So this is where the man has more than one wife, more than one girlfriend. Now I kind of like this a little bit. Of course, if I'm in a relationship, I'm kind of going to try to lead up to that. Simply because the if there's kids involved, the they're well protected, and they're not they're nurtured, and they nurture not only the man, but they're nurturing the children as well that may come from this kind of form dynamic of poly. Now there's also polyandry. Now I have myself have been, I've had a couple relationships that have been polyandry, and this is where the woman has more than one man. Now, I love, love, love this, but simply because of, if you have two men working, and even the female is working, she is protected. She should be protected. With a lot of crimes going against black women, she will be protected. Ain't no man, ain't nobody. A person would think twice or probably three times before they approach a woman to do anything malicious to her if they know she has two men two husbands protecting her at all times, or two or three protecting her. So they would think a lot harder be- eh, with any kind of violence. Even, you know, Caucasian women, they also have it too. Women, that's another story, but there's a lot of crimes against women that happen. And if a woman has more than one husband, she's protected and financially stable, because that is what the ideal poly anything is that, two bill. But I'm jumping ahead of my story. I'm jumping ahead of everything. So now, children are not really part of polymorphs, more or less. And if it is, then it needs to be talked about. It needs to be addressed if something happens, because things happen, accidents happen. I might have hit it raw once eventually, and boom, a baby happened. But more joy children are more geared to polyandry and polygamy, simply because it does take a village to raise a child, and then that way they're in a tribe. um, we did see, and I may reference this video, we did see where on YouTube, it was a famous video, it was all over social media, where this girl had multiple boyfriends. She was practicing polyandry, and she got pregnant, and one of the boyfriends later on ended up abusing the baby. Sad but true. And he ended up going to jail. So you do have to, it's not easy. This is not really easy, because there's jealousy. There's going to always be jealousy, and that's even more reasons why there should always be consent, because you don't want anyone to just be in your village. You have to make sure that everyone is mentally okay, and you have to always, probably now I'm seeing more and more like counseling ads for people who polyandry, because as humans we are naturally jealous anyway. um, so you definitely want, if you're going to have children, you definitely want to have it where it is a stable, polyandry or polygamy relationship. You don't want to just have children, be out there being whorish and no one knows anything and no one knows, they think, hey, it's only me, and it's you have five, eight, nine, 10 women all think that they're your boyfriend or girlfriend, and it's not true. Because if you have a babies like that, then what, we've seen videos where mothers have abused their children severely, punched them in the eye, busted their lips, cracked their skull, and stuff like that. And you have to understand we're unstable for a while after we have children. So when you find out that you are sharing your partner with a whole bunch of women, then you have to ask yourself, what are you building? Which is where we're getting into next. Um, any of poly relationships idealism should be to build financial wealth, so I should have financial stability. If I had a partner and me and my partner's in Texas and we have lovers in Oklahoma, Mississippi, Louisiana, not saying I'm going to be that open, but if we do have that situation, then the traveling is going to be too much, the staying in hotels is going to be too much, and etc. People that I know personally, they eventually pull their resources together and they get ranches or they get big houses so that everyone can live underneath one roof. You want to rent an apartment building or buy an apartment building. We all pull our resources together. We have one floor, if either lower level or upper level. We have one floor and we rent out the rest of the building. So that is definitely thing. That is so. What are you building when you enter or want to enter into a poly relationship? What do you want to build? Do you want to continue building negativity on society where we have all these babies and no one is taking care of them? You're not paying child support. They may be going hungry or etc. And you are also creating mental illness with the female and the child itself, or do you want to build an empire and with financial stability, financial freedom, etc. When I met my former, I was actually building for myself, so I thought, like, we could since he had a child, we could come together and build for both children. So now we also have to go into also diseases. Now this is a very real thing. As you know, I have herpes 1 and 2, and we as black people and others, herpes is rampant within our community. HIV has not been dead. It hasn't gone away. It's not, they haven't found a cure for these two diseases, and they don't even have a suppressant for herpes. So it is also very important that you know who you are laying down with and who you are having relationships, intimate relationships with. They do have a suppressant for HIV, where you may not spread it, but then that's a suppressant. It's not anything that doesn't mean that it's going to cure it or anything like that. So you also, that's very important, where you have to love yourself. That's bottom line. Which, if you don't love yourself and you're just out here being whorish, you can't really love the people that you in all these relationships with. Especially if you're exposing them to um, diseases. I had a situation on Plenty of Fish that this guy approached me, and I really, if I'm gonna ever be a unicorn in a relationship, I would prefer a female to approach me rather than a guy. I want her to approach me. I want her to interview me. I want her to ask me questions about myself, what are my goals, and etc. How can I contribute to the relationship? But this guy approached me, and he had a girlfriend, and he knows very well that I have herpes. So if I would have jumped on to that board, I would have exposed him, I would have exposed her that she didn't know, and all his lovers. Do you really, is that love? The whole thing of poly is the loving of multiple people. And that loving of multiple people, in order, again, in order to love multiple people, you have to love yourself. So, this is it. It's a 14, almost 15-minute video. I hope that you've learned some things. Um, and I'll see you next time. Remember, keep it classy, keep it sexy, and always, always, always keep it kinky. Love yourself. Forgive yourself. Be kind to yourself. Be true to yourself. Forgive others. And always, always make the most of your day. What is your day one? Bye.